we have looks like Pritesh, yourself, Ketan, and myself. So we four of us are here. Let's see. Today, let me start recording.
I did already.
Oh, you did? Okay, all right. Okay. All right. So welcome to Worldwide Jain Virtual Classroom. This is session number 31. And today, last time we talked about wrapped up discussions about depression and how basically what are the precursors of depression, how can we prevent ourselves from going into depression, and then if we or our family members are in depression, then what are the various ways we can help ourselves or others to come out of depression, basically. And hopefully by now you have realized that Jain concepts provide the ultimate defense that you need against depression. Whether people try antidepressants or people try other forms of therapy, as long as this incorrect thought process is not addressed, nothing's going to prevent a person from giving that ultimate defense. And Jain philosophy does provide the ultimate defense, and it's for you to see. We don't necessarily have to conclude it. We don't really want to impose our thoughts on you. It's for you to study it and take a look at it, realize if that's the case. With that, now we will do anxiety disorders. So we will briefly look at what the different type of anxiety disorders are that psychiatrists recognize and what people experience nowadays, and then what are the precursors to each of them, how can we again prevent it, and what can we do to basically get out of it if we are into it. So that, let me share my screen here. Give me just a second, okay? Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint on this. I just didn't get a chance to put together any PowerPoint, but hopefully we can just read from here. So first of all, I'd like to ask Pritesh. Pritesh, can you mention, there are so many different types of anxiety disorders, but can you mention few of them, just a few different types of them, and what a patient generally experiences in those type of situations?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
We can. Yeah, now we can.
Sorry, there is a lot of background noise here. I'm outside. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So there are a lot of different types of anxiety disorder. First, that comes along with is depression with anxiety. That's one. The other thing is when you have bipolar disorder, you can have extremes of anxiety and pretty much hysterical state. Then there could be panic attack. That's one of the common things. But these are the few things. It generally is put in the same category. If you just have anxiety, just generally put in the category as depression in terms of Western psychiatric medicine.
I see. So yeah, that's a very good thing that you mentioned all the different type of disorders, anxiety disorders here. Now, one thing to notice here is ultimately, for any psychological issue that we may face, ultimately we now know by studying Jain fundamentals that the ultimate root cause is in our thought process, because they manifest into our consciousness, not in the body. In the body, we just see the correlation to it. or correlated events to it, but they really manifest into the consciousness. But now, so ultimate root cause is in the incorrect thought process. But if you go into further details, there are different precursors. There are some precursors we noticed last time, which leads person into depression. There are some other precursor feelings which may lead person into anxiety, and there are some common too. There are some precursors which are common to anxiety and depression. So it depends on what type of feelings a person get overwhelmed by, and then start experiencing it, and then that's what we will characterize as what type of flight. So I'm not a health professional, but I just tried to read a little bit about anxiety disorders, and some of the anxiety disorders that I came across, that I learned about, was one of them was very common, the generalized anxiety disorder. It's called, in short, GAD. Then phobias, panic disorder, as Nitish mentioned, and then there is one, social anxiety disorder, as well as there are many other types. If you just type it, anxiety disorders, and if you look at the Wikipedia page, it just summarizes so many different type of anxiety disorders. If we try to take every one of them, we will be spending days and days here. But so what I'm trying to do is, let's take three or four of them that are most common, and let's just talk about it from Jain point of view. So first of all, let's talk about generalized anxiety disorder. Now, the way it's been characterized is generalized anxiety disorder, the common chronic disorder characterized by long-lasting anxiety that is not focused on any one object or situation. Those suffering from generalized anxiety disorder experience non-specific and persistent fear and worry, and they become overly concerned with everyday matters. So this is a reference from where I got this definition of general anxiety disorder. Now, you'll find many people in life, right? They're just worried all the time. We find that around. Sometimes we may be in that state too, that we're worried all the time. You can't really pinpoint one or other things, but for some reason our mood is off. We are just constantly worrying. We just don't feel good. Some people feel like get up in the morning and they feel like kind of emptiness. They just don't feel good about themselves. There's just something that bothers them. That's more of a generalized anxiety disorder. And then this is basically another definition here is anxiety disorder is characterized by chronic excessive worry accompanied by 3 or more of the following symptoms: restlessness, fatigue, concentration problem, irritability, muscle tension, and sleep disturbance. Again, this is from one of the medical references right out of it. I'm not making up any definitions here. Now, this excessive worry, you'll find it that person is just not able to relax. And one thing that you will also notice is sometimes you may have done physical work the whole day, but you didn't really experience negative emotions. You don't really feel as much tired even after working whole day physically. And sometimes it may happen that you haven't really worked at all. You just woke up. You are under so much worry that in 15-20 minutes or in half an hour we feel like we're really tired. Have you ever experienced this type of situation? Maybe it may have happened once or twice, or maybe someone may experience more frequently. But do you see that generally happens? How if you are mentally stressed out, you feel like really tired really quickly. It just wears you out. The generalized anxiety disorder is kind of that type of form. And there are other ones here. Let's talk about them, and then we will talk about what can we do about it. What are the treatments? Phobic disorders, which are characterized by fear and anxiety triggered in reaction to specific stimulus or situation. Most people I've seen have one or other type of phobia. I'll admit I have a phobia of lizards. If I see lizard in a bathroom, I won't go to a bathroom. So I'm really scared. I don't know. Nothing has happened to me in my life as much as I can think, even in my childhood. But from the day one that I've seen lizards, I've been scared. Maybe it's just their looks or whatever. It just scares me, terrifies. I probably won't be as scared of lion probably, but I'll be more scared of lizards. That's just a phobia that I have. So again, it's a reaction to specific stimulus or situation. Sufferers typically anticipate terrifying consequences from encountering the object of their fear. It can be anything from an animal to location to a bodily fluid to a particular situation. And in this situation, sufferers understand that their fear is not proportional to the actual potential danger, but still are overwhelmed by it. So in this case, I know that lizard is not that big of a deal. It's not going to harm me. Even if it harms me, not going to harm me that much. But still, if there is a lizard, I just get really, really panic about it. I have a phobia. How I acquired it, maybe in my past life or something, I don't know. But I do have it from day one. Anyone else have any other type of phobias? Interesting. Some people have a phobia of heights, fear of heights. Some people have fear of water, actually. You heard of that? And then I have another type of phobia too. It's claustrophobia. I'm claustrophobic too. If you keep me in a small space for even a little longer, few minutes, I just feel claustrophobic. So that's another thing, another phobia that I have from day one. Okay, so next is panic disorder. A person has brief attacks of intense terror and apprehension, often marked by trembling, shaking, confusion, dizziness, nausea, or difficulty in breathing. These panic attacks, as per APA, American Psychological Association, are defined by basically fear or discomfort that abruptly arises and peaks in less than 10 minutes. It can last for several hours. Attacks can be triggered by either stress, fear, or sometimes an exercise. So these are, I've heard several people having panic attacks. Have you ever experienced or have you ever seen someone having panic attacks? Anyone?
We see a lot of patients actually with panic attacks. That's a very common thing. I mean, people will they will present like a heart attack, but it's nothing but a panic attack. I mean, it can be one of the ways it will present. Yeah, and as you said, phobia could be from anything and everything. People are very specific about certain things and they have phobias about that. There is no explanation in terms of Western science. As you said, the definition is just stress and anxiety related to that. But yeah, panic attack is quite common, and anything there are certain situations that people will have in their life that will trigger the panic attack, and it can present like heart attack in many cases. I mean, it will mimic heart attack. They're not actually having heart attack, just a panic attack.
So they feel like it is a heart attack, but in reality, it's not a heart attack. It's just a panic attack.
Correct.
Okay. And next is a social anxiety disorder. This is very, very common. Probably we may have experienced in childhood or some even may experience now. As known as a social phobia, it is an intense fear or avoidance of negative public scrutiny or public embarrassment, humiliation, or social interaction. And this fear can be specific to particular social situations such as public speaking, or more typically is experienced in most or all social interactions. Social anxiety often manifests specific physical symptoms, including blushing, sweating, difficulty in speaking. As with all the phobic disorders, those suffering from social anxiety often will attempt to avoid the source of their anxiety. In the case of social anxiety, this is particularly problematic, and in severe cases, it can lead to complete social isolation of the person. This we can definitely find even among kids. Not that just adults go through it. Kids, a lot of people are really, really terrified when they're among people. Just cannot speak out when there is a group of people. If they speak, they will constantly be worried about, okay, what will people think about me? Or am I speaking it right? Am I doing things correctly? What will, if I made a mistake, what will people think about me? Things like this. This just gets to a point where it overwhelms them, and they just cannot control it. And then one time they experience it, it's just becomes so unpleasant for them that next time if they're among a group of people, they'll just prefer to remain quiet or remain hidden so that people don't notice it. Like, when I was a kid, I remember I was not the one like that, but some of my classmates, they would be really worried. They just wanted sometimes teacher would ask questions in classroom, right? They really wanted not their name not to be called out by any teacher for anything in class that would drive attention towards them, and they would just try to hide their face or not participate as much as they can. And they were just, I mean, that's just one example among kids. I'm sure some of the adults also experience that. There are various different reasons for this. Person's upbringing can definitely lead to it, but again, everything is in the thought process. Person's incorrect thought process. So, has anyone seen this social anxiety disorder? Okay, now let's go into the causes and the risk factors of the anxiety disorder. The modern medical science yet doesn't have a very clear understanding of the reasons for anxiety disorders. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So if they don't have a complete, very clear understanding of the reasons, they just think that there may be some biological reasons, there may be some genetic factors, there may be some other type of social factors that may be contributing to it. They just can't pinpoint to anything. And again, as we have seen, similar to cause of a case of depression, modern medical science only identifies certain so-called risk factors of anxiety. And some of it are in reality just the correlated events or the instrumental factors to the anxiety disorder. They are not necessarily the ultimate cause. They're just the correlated events that take place during anxiety disorder. So it is generally believed in modern science that a combination of psychological, physical, and genetic factors, as well as social factors, lead one to these disorders. And one thing from Jain perspective, though, I'd like to mention here is that at the bottom of this incorrect thought process is our wrong belief of self-identity and ignorance about our consciousness. And due to this ignorance, we continue to falsely believe that external factors can cause us depression or anxiety. The biggest problem with this fallacy is this: when we don't even learn to take the responsibility for our own thought process, we're outsourcing our blame to someone else, rather to the circumstances, rather to the society, rather to other people, rather to our luck. We just find various terminologies to basically assign the blame to someone. But that is not always, I mean, that doesn't work. When we don't even take responsibility, how are we going to introspect what really happened to us? And if we don't even introspect, how are we going to correct what we are going through? So the very first thing we have to do is learn to take responsibility for our own actions. Even if we continue to make that mistake, it is recognize that it is not because any circumstances or not because other people, not because of the society. Even if circumstances are extremely difficult, circumstances are not responsible. Only if we have incorrect thought process, then and then they become a risk factor or so-called instrumental cause or nimitt karan from Jain terminology. So let's see. Now let's talk about the. So we know the causes and the root cause. Now let's talk about some of the precursors here. These precursors are important. Why precursors are important? Before one goes into these severe anxiety disorders, one typically experiences these precursors. If they catch it right away, if they can recognize if a person, we all can recognize it right away and learn to rectify it right there, then we can easily get out of it. And we can easily prevent ourselves from going into these type of anxiety disorders. So primary precursor to, yeah, anyone has any questions?
No.
Okay. So primary precursor to GAD, which is a generalized anxiety disorder, is an intense attachment or hatred towards external situations. So feeling of intense attachment or hatred keep person under constant worry. So intense attachment and hatred towards external situation. Okay, that the person. A lot of times, so as we go through our daily routine, we are going to have desires, right? We want things to occur in certain manner in office, at work, in family, in society. We have our preferences, and they are going to remain. And as long as we participate in our day-to-day life, we're going to have some preferences. But when these preferences turn into a rigid opinions and rigid expectations that no, this has to happen, and this has to be like this, that's when this is one of the precursors. It's intense attachment or intense hatred. Why did someone do this or do that, or why did this happen to me or that, or it shouldn't happen to me? There is no way it should happen to me. These type of intense attachment and hatred towards external situation, this is a precursor to a constant worry, and thus leading one to generalized anxiety disorder eventually. Such a person tends to speculate a lot in anticipation of future events, or frequently suspects others' behavior in reaction to past or current events in order to find blame. So what happens is, when you have intense attachment towards a certain external situation related to future events, we constantly keep thinking, okay, what will happen? What will happen? What will happen? We constantly speculate. What if this happens? What if that happens? And we just cannot. Sometimes we feel like we just cannot break the cycle. It's so much overwhelmed. Is that right? Do we feel that way when we're really worried?
Yes.
And
Makes sense.
Also, what happens along with that is when we think of the. Yeah, go ahead. Someone had something to say?
No.
No.
So when a person is basically looking at the previous events or the current events, and if that doesn't go according to his plan, and he basically starts speculating that, okay, what is that person doing? What is this person doing? And he just tries to find blame. Sometimes, we keep speculating like this. I think that other person doesn't like me because so and so didn't talk to me properly. Things like this, we just keep speculating without any reason, without really looking at the bigger picture. So one of the other reason is also improper prioritization, irrational goals, inappropriate time management, and also lead person to become overwhelmed with the worldly priorities. And such habits, when they persist for extended periods of time, it can eventually bring person under a social anxiety disorder. So there are three different, basically two or three different precursors that we noticed here. Okay, what are they? First of all, intense attachment or hatred towards external situation. You can call it a rigid opinions. Second one, ability, just a habit to speculate things in life, speculative mindset. And third one, which is improper prioritization, irrational goals, and inappropriate time management. It can lead person to become overwhelmed. These are the three disorders that I could think of. Is there anything else you could think of? Or is there something that you agree or disagree with? Here?
I like the concept very much that it's the intense attachment that we have that creates the anxiety. I think it's a very good concept.
Yeah. That's the law of nature, right? If we have intense attachment, this is just simply waiting to happen. So we just need to be aware of it. But in general, do you agree with this three precursors that they lead to generalized anxiety disorder? Now, also, sometimes let me mention this. I think we will cover that when we cover the phobia. So let's do that. I think there is a very interesting point here. Okay, let's cover the second paragraph. Anyone would like to read? Let someone else read. So Tejas or Ketan, like to read.
Phobia arises when we don't think of ourselves and other living beings from the point of view.
Yeah, read from here. From here.
Okay. Feeling of intense attachments towards our own body, current relative exercise, is the main precursor to phobic and panic disorders. This intense attachment towards our body, coupled with incorrect perceptions of external objects harming our existence, generates intense fear among us. Feeling of intense attachment to our body also tests upon our ignorance about nature of consciousness. Phobia arises when we don't think of ourselves and other living beings from the point of view of pure consciousness and continue to evaluate life based on physical body.
Yeah. Keep on reading.
Okay. So, uh, okay. Important things to note is that we only see expression of phobias and panic attacks when some external instrumental events take place. However, those phobias and fearful feelings continues to exist subconsciously within us even when we are not explicitly subject to external instrument event. Sometimes their expressions can be triggered even without the presence of visible external events. For example, sometimes thoughts of such real or hypothetical situations can also trigger expression of phobias and panic attacks.
Does it make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
So phobias arise basically because of the intense, the precursor to phobia is intense attachment towards our body coupled with incorrect perception of external objects harming our existence. Now, we may think that I don't have a phobia right now. Many people may think that I don't have any phobia. But if we have this intense attachment coupled with our incorrect perception, phobia is very much is in making. You just haven't experienced a situation that realizes you that you have phobia. There is bound to be, you're bound to have a phobia. It's just waiting to happen, kind of thing. It's a bomb waiting to explode, kind of thing. So phobic disorders arise when we don't think of ourselves or other living beings from the point of view of our consciousness. So when we look at others, in my example, when I look at lizard, simply looking at lizard from the point of view of lizard's body, and I have assigned a perception that this body is creepy and it's going to, and it's harmful, it's going to harm me, and I'm also thinking from myself as a body, and so that body to body relation, I'm not thinking myself as a consciousness, and when I'm not thinking that, I'm thinking that a lizard's going to harm me, and that's why I have intense fear, which is phobia. Now, one thing to notice here is you don't necessarily have to have an external event taking place to see the expression of phobia. Sometimes there is no external event. Person just some thoughts came across in person's mind about. So in my case, if thought came, suppose if I was just resting and the thought came to my mind that lizard fell on me, on my head, and that will scare me off. And that doesn't have to have a real lizard in front of you. It can just a hypothetical thought of a hypothetical situation which can trigger this event. So this just shows us that the root is within us. Problem lies within us. There is no problem outside. It's our incorrect thought process that leads us to these problems here. And basically, we just have to realize here the precursor is intense attachment and our habit of viewing ourselves and others from the point of view of only physical body. That's the ultimate precursor. So if we have that precursor, phobia or panic attacks are in just making, basically. They're in works, even if we haven't experienced one. And we have potential to end up into it. Something to realize here. Agree? Agree on this phobias and panic disorders? Can you think of any other precursors to it?
Agreed. Definitely agreed.
It's Priyanka, and I think there's Siddharth here, right?
Yes, Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra. Priyanka, do you agree with panic disorders or phobias here, precursors to it?
I just heard your last sentence. I agree to that.
Okay, okay.
That connection is not proper over here today.
What did you say again?
My internet connection is not good today, so yeah.
Okay.
I just joined now.
Okay. Siddharth, did this make sense to you? Phobia? Chetan, Pritesh, Tejas, can you think of any other precursors to phobia apart from
Yep.
this?
Maybe one
Uh,
reason I can think of is maybe some bad experience in past life. So consciously you don't know the reason, but unconsciously you may have some experience in past life.
Or in childhood.
Unpleasant traumatic experience probably in the past. Right?
Yeah,
But again, what I'm saying is, yes, that is from external viewpoint, it is okay. Yeah, you can call it external reason for it. As far as the internal precursors to it, that's what we are discussing. Can you
correct.
think of anything as an internal, anything else?
No,
Here,
no,
the ultimate is intense attachment towards our own body and our own relative existence. That's the
yes.
ultimate key here, coupled with incorrect perception.
No, I think from internal perspective, this is complete.
Okay. So next, feeling of shame and inferior. Okay, yeah. Let someone else read it. Ketan, you want to read this or?
Sure. Feeling of shame or inferiority due to the real or potential mockery, negative comments, or criticism can lead one to SAD,
It's social anxiety disorder.
social anxiety disorder. Habit of evaluating and judging ourselves based on other subjective opinion or comments is the underlying precursor to SAD. During this section about management of stress, we will discuss how to deal with anxiety precursors such as attachment, hatred, fear, or inferiority complex in order to prevent ourselves from experiencing anxiety. We shall also discuss ways to come out of anxiety using some very simple and powerful Jain techniques. Even family and friends can try to narrate these techniques to bring their loved ones out of anxiety.
Okay. Right. So now, one thing I want to talk about here is, and in SAD, one of the precursors is basically our habit of judging judging ourselves from other subjective opinions. So, there is this thing in newer generation, being cool, right? Being cool, looking cool in the society. So what do I do that will so that I look cool in people's eyes? And so what in this mindset, have you heard of this? Oh, my friends are going to disco or bar, but I have to be there. Or, people are making fun of me because I use cycle and all of my friends are using two-wheelers. So in India, this is a very common thing. Okay, from 8th grade onwards, all the high school students who can afford one, they go on two-wheelers even if they don't have a license. And this is not today's trend, okay? Especially in Gujarat. This was a trend even from the days when I was there, back 15 years, 16 years ago. And what happens is, if someone can't afford it, or if someone doesn't really want to use two-wheeler because they prefer that, it's not the right age, or it's a bicycle is more appropriate and that's their situation. Then, a lot of times classmates think, oh, this person is coming on a cycle. And, when this happens, the person is not strong enough. He evaluates himself based on other subjective opinions, and he will start forming an inferiority complex. And I've seen a lot of cases where students go to their parents and keep asking for two-wheelers, and their parents are hardly they're hardly being able to afford their school and college fees, and now they are in so much burden for this type of thing. And also, they don't even there is not even an age for get the license for them. It has just become a trend then. So this is just one example that I want to talk about when we evaluate ourselves from other subjective opinions, and that can lead us to social anxiety disorder. And again, another precursor is basically which is related to this is an inferiority complex. We discussed it last time, which is common to depression. When a person has an inferiority complex about himself, he will constantly think, hey, what will people think about me? What if I make a mistake? How will I look? Will people think of me as a fool? And these type of thoughts, and he just avoids the social interaction for those reasons. So if we experience these type of precursor feelings, we should work on it rather than just sitting ideally on it and not do anything about it before it gets worse. Make sense?
The modern corollary to that, Parit, I think might be having a Facebook page, right? And
Yes.
in the more modern era, if we can, or in the U.S. culture,
Yes.
we can think about it from that perspective. That the cool chic thing is for a 13-year-old to have a Facebook page,
Yes.
and yet we're looking at people from a subjective way based on the pictures that they post on their Facebook page, how many friends they have, etc. You
Yes.
start making all of these predeterminations about people based on that. So that may be the modern corollary to the two-wheeler in India.
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's a very good example that you brought up, I think. And see, one of the peculiarity of about the subjective matters is there is no fact or there is no objectivity involved. Okay, it's based on total likes, dislikes, trends, and things like that. Now, we may think a lot of times people may assign blame to society that that society has become like that. People think like this nowadays. So what do? I have to conform to the trend. Okay, yes, agree that we cannot change everyone's opinion, but that doesn't mean that we cannot make our own decision. We can obviously evaluate everything from our own objective mindset, and we can come to conclusion whether it's the right thing to do or not, whether it's appropriate or inappropriate in a situation or not. And if it's inappropriate, we don't have to go out and protest to anyone. We just simply can choose to remain independent and not participate or be different about it. And there is nothing wrong about it. When we don't have this habit, we fall into the traps. I'll give you an example. In my college time, I have seen people who were sharing their final exam project with other classmates, and they ended up in trouble with the university, and that they were basically suspended from the university for about a year or 6 months. Now, they didn't really have an explicit intention of participating and doing cheating. They weren't the nature of like cheaters to say that sort. Only fault was they just thought that it's okay to do it because many students were doing it for many years, so it's okay to do it. And so they simply, although they didn't really cheat, they allowed their classmates to borrow their projects, and that got them into trouble. And this is another example where they were not evaluating things based on their objectivity. They were basically governed by subjective opinions of people, basically, and which led them to a lot of trouble. So something to be aware of here. What we can do here. Now, any questions so far? Any questions?
No.
Everything good? Anxiety disorder makes sense? I want to cover one other topic today. Okay, other thing, yes. This is the one other topic I wanted to cover today. Let's read about it. Can family and social support reduce stress? This is related to what we discussed last time with depression and anxiety. Even like to read it? Pritesh, I know you are outside, so probably you may not be able to read, right? Siddharth, are you able to see the screen? Do you want to read? Is there Siddharth? Who else is there? I see 832 number. Who else is in the call? Okay, let's do this.
I can.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
One of the most common stress management recommendations given by mental health practitioners is to have a good family and social support system around us. No doubt, the family support can be crucial in difficult times of life, and we all can do our part in society to support each other in positive ways. This is an important aspect of any civilized society. However, Let us investigate if that can really reduce stress. Family members or friends can certainly become instrumental in alleviating, containing, or reducing person's stress if they can combine their social support with proper stress management guidance to the person. Social support meaning right type of physical or emotional solidarity required for that person. Proper guidance can be about offering strategies to an individual to contain stress, reduce its intensity, or eliminate its root cause. We will explain various stress management strategies in remainder of this book. This can be only possible if a person is open to new ideas and family members or friends are also educated about right causes and remedies of stress. The person also has to be willing to introspect himself for his own actions with the attitude of wanting to correct mistakes. In the absence of proper stress management guidance, family members and friends in many cases only end up offering false hopes about hypothetical future outcome that the person may want to hear. They do that with the intent of stimulating positive thinking within the person. However, false hopes can further diminish person's morale if they don't materialize. Positive thinking is not the one which concentrates on desired outcome. Real positive thinking is about recognizing the circumstances truthfully, introspection of our mistakes, and making efforts to correct them without worrying about end outcome. Such type of positive thinking allows persons to properly carry on with their life without unduly worrying about end results that may not be under his control. True recovery of the person can only start if he can accept his own responsibility and learn to recognize circumstances as they are.
Okay. Does this make sense?
Mhm.
This was basically how basically can family or friends, how can they support a person in stress? So one thing, can they reduce stress? No, they cannot reduce stress. But yes, if you are willing to help yourself, they can be instrumental in reducing your stress. So they can be instrumental factor if we are open to it. If a person is open to using their help. So yes, they cannot reduce your stress. They can be an instrumental in reducing stress. That's right. Now, obviously, social support is important. They being with us wherever we need in other needs of our life. But very, very important is the stress management guidance. And what type of stress management guidance? Most of the time, when person is stressed out or really in anxiety, this is the mistake that family members end up making. And let me know if you disagree with it. Okay. Most of the time, people want a person to quickly come out of anxiety or depression, and so they end up offering false hopes. Don't worry, it will happen like you want. They keep consoling the person for the end outcome they want to hear. But there is no guarantee that the end outcome will always turn out that way. And if it doesn't turn out, person will his hopes will be shattered further, and he can become even more aggrieved, and that can be even worse. Rather, what's more important is to make them realize that it's not that big of a deal, even if it doesn't turn out the way that person wants. It's okay. Things don't always go as we wish, but nothing drastic is going to happen if that happens. There is still hope, and nothing. We can still survive. We can still be happy. We can still be positive. We can still live our life with positive intent, and if we can make person take responsibility, also make person make peace with the circumstances truthfully, recognize the circumstances as they are, and then if we can convince him to introspect the mistakes, help him understand what he's doing wrong, help him correct that in life, then probably that's more of a positive thinking, where he wouldn't worry too much about the end outcome, but worry about things that are in his direct control. And if we can do that, that would be a better way for recovery rather than just offering the false hopes. And so typically, this is what I've seen, and this is what I've noticed. So I wanted to just come out of it. But I'd like to hear your views. What do you think? Chetan, we can hear you. You are on mute.
Thank you. I said I like the concept. I think it's worth emphasizing that from the Jain theological perspective, that the concept here is that one substance cannot influence another substance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and what you were saying about being an instrumental cause in change is the right way to look at it. That your words may be the instrumental cause in potentially perceiving change, but there's nothing that I can say that will necessarily change another person's thought process or behavior. One substance, my one substance cannot influence the other person. I think that's worth emphasizing, although you can be the instrumental cause.
Yeah, definitely. And do you all agree with the way we should counsel our family or friends, other than offering the false hopes?
Yes.
Typically, in the absence of the right guidance ourselves, we only offer the false hopes, right? That's all we can offer. There is nothing much we can offer if we don't know the right things. Agree? Anyone else have any other thoughts on it? Tejas or Pritesh?
Maybe we can explain the concept of Krambat Paryay, and personally, my experience with that concept, I have managed to release my stress as well as the stress of others who believes in this concept.
Oh, definitely. That's a wonderful concept. Yeah. If a person is open to talk about it, I think we should talk about it. Only thing is, as Pritesh had mentioned last time, that when a person is under intense stress, such as deep depression or anxiety, sometimes it becomes very difficult to talk about intellectual subjects at that point in time. Not that you can never talk about it, but you just have to identify the right time for that person to talk about it. But in the short run, when we are not able to talk about such intellectual subjects, what can we do? At least the least we can do is not offer the false hopes, make them understand and make peace with the circumstances and recognize them truthfully, and let them take responsibility for their own actions. If we can do that, only that would be much better.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all we had today. We are already at 11 o'clock. Is there anything else, any other questions or any thing that someone wants to talk about? Here the discussion about anxiety disorder is completed. Now next time what we're going to do is we will just do we are at the end of stress management workshop, unless someone wants to talk about any particular scenario. Anyone want to talk about any particular other scenario? Okay, so that would be pretty much the end. Next time we will do the complete recap of the entire workshop, of what we have learned so far, and basically just do a last recall of our concepts, as well as we will talk about our Atma, consciousness, pure consciousness, because we have determined that understanding the pure consciousness is a key to resolving all our problems. So we will let Saurabh talk about, Saurabh is here, the potential of our pure consciousness, who we are, so we can realize the true importance of our own self and never feel inferior or being affected from external circumstances. That's what we will do next time, and then with that will be the end of our stress management workshop, and then we will hopefully start third ala, as we had decided earlier. A study of third ala. Saurabh will start teaching us that. Does anyone else have any comments or suggestions? Okay, if not, we'll end today's class here, and we'll continue next time. Jai Jinendra, everyone.
Jai
Jai
Jinendra.
Jinendra.
Jai Janendra. Thank you so much.